Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the PCS Podcast, Pokemon podcast built by the community for the community. I'm one of your co hosts, Aaron, and I'm joined once again by Michael. On today's episode, we're going to cover our early thoughts of the Stellar Crown meta, take a look at the Champions League going on in Tokyo currently, right now, and then some insane reveals that we actually got at the end of day one yesterday. It's a Japan holiday weekend, so that's
Yep.
why it's kind of different. So that's why I was really struggling to try to find the day two stream
I
today,
know.
and then finally I was able to find like the official website, translated English, click every single button, and then finally found the
Nice,
official
nice.
streams. And I was like, I didn't realize it was a Japan holiday.
That's
So that's
awesome.
actively going right now in day two. So probably when we finish this, Michael will probably go watch that and see how that finishes. Um, Michael, I hope you have a full recovery from Baltimore. And then last night, or excuse me, Friday night, when I played my PCS challenge match, we had a few others in there as well too. I saw you got to 3-0 in the Tournament of Doom, but then it was pretty late, so I went to bed. But just one, have you recovered? And two, how you been, my man?
Yeah, no, I more than recovered from Baltimore.
Good.
Unfortunately, the work week was pretty wild. Kids were pretty wild. Life was pretty wild this past week. So not a very restful week, unfortunately. And tonight was the culmination of that all. But we're here. We're happy. We have a happy face on, all that good stuff. But no, yeah. So didn't really do a ton of Pokemon this week. It's typically what happens after a major event for me. I like to, because I build up to the pinnacle of it, go to the event, and then I just kind of need a week to kind of like decompress a little bit. We had some local tournaments around. There was a big cup on Saturday locally, and then one today as well. But I didn't do either of those. Graham had a birthday party on Saturday, and so I was on the littlest homie duty with Hayden while Caitlin took Graham there. And then today, just didn't really want to go drive an hour to a cup, so got to do some stuff around the house. Finally repotted some plants that I had, so I've got plants back behind me again finally. So it's good to do that. So it was good. Just another week of kind of decompressing. I did play the Tournament of Doom. I was kind of up in the air if I was going to play it again because really just not feeling this meta right now. And again, just kind of in one of those lulls. But I decided to play. Ran Logia because I haven't really spent a ton of time with any of the other decks, which I would argue there's not a whole lot of like new decks this format that I
Yeah.
really care to play. So played Lugia, started 3-0, was feeling really good. Hit the Terapagos deck, and dude, that deck is so annoying. My guy had 4 cards in his hand, and I had great setup. I lost the toss, went second, was able to get double chops, all the good things, but only put one Lugia down. Really wasn't expecting anything. Like I looked at his hands, like he's got 4 cards. They've got 4 cards in their hands. There's no way my Lugia is getting knocked out from being on the bench. Well, out of those 4 cards, there were like 2 knockdowns. They had the fan rotom already, so I knew they probably had the knockdown. Um, I forgot what it was, but in the chat I was like, "What was your top deck on there?" They top deck a rare candy, which was enabled them
Ooh.
to get rare candy Pidgeot. So like literally in the blink of an eye, they went from having 4 cards in hand and only like 2 Pokemon on the bench to a full 8 card or 8 Pokemon bench and all that stuff. They found the prime catcher. They prime catcher my Lugia, so I immediately just conceded. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. This deck's annoying to play against. Um, it is what it is. And then the next round played against what was the deck? It was It was the Iron Valiant Blood Moon Ursaluna deck. They had
Oh,
a
the baby. Yeah, the baby
yeah,
Blood Moon. Yep,
yep,
gotcha.
yep.
Yep, yep.
So they had a
I'm
pretty
fine with
hot
that deck. Yeah.
yeah, they had a pretty hot start. They didn't take a knockout, and then it was just so late. Like I misclicked, and instead of putting a DTE and an energy on my Lugia V Star in the active, which again I had 2 chops in the bin, all that good stuff. But ended up putting 2 single energies, so only had 3 on him and no energies in hand. So I just said, you know what? I concede. I'm going to bed. And so I went to
Yeah.
bed. And that's the nice thing about those kind of tournaments, right? Like they're so late here on the East Coast. Like you do a mistake like that, I'm not wasting any more time. I'm going to bed. I need some sleep. So I went to sleep. And then last night stayed up entirely too late and probably recovering from that today. One of the things I do, I think we were talking about this before the show started. One of the things I like to
Mhm.
do when I'm kind of like in a lull or like not really feeling Pokemon at the time is I like to go in my bulk playables, reorganize them. Like I put them into the way I organize my bulk playables is everything goes into a penny sleeve. I put 4 in a penny sleeve. So like I have a playset and a penny sleeve. So if I'm
Oh,
ever building a deck or if I want to give something to someone, I can pull that penny sleeve out and I have 4 cards right there. And it's really easy. And then I try to like alphabetize them as best as I can, but then I also keep them organized by item cards, supporters, stadiums, things like that too. So that's just how I personally. I wish I don't have anything up
no,
here.
that gives me. I might need a copy of that from
Yeah.
you.
So I used
Yeah,
these little boxes here. This is actually my retro GLC stuff. But I actually went to one of like the 5 divider ones this time.
yeah,
Like
yep,
I
yep.
migrated everything because I just wanted one box for all of my playable stuff. And so that's pretty epic. And then like I've got a lot of space. So I'm pretty sure. So to put it into perspective, I almost watched both Dunes last night while doing this too. So and Dune's not a short movie. I think Dune one, part one is almost 3 hours. I think,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think it gets pretty close. Yeah.
yeah, and then Dune part two is equally as long. I didn't finish it. I finally went to bed by like 3:30 last night too. So
You stayed up later than me.
yeah, dude, it was dumb. But like I just like got into the zone. I found out that I could put my headphones and connect to my TV, so I didn't have to worry about waking the family up or like I
Oh,
don't know if you've ever watched Dune. I'm sure you've watched Dune, but if you haven't watched Dune, like it has like these highs and lows in the audio. So like the big epic scenes, but then the really quiet whisper scenes too. So like
yeah.
I'm constantly finding myself like going up and down with the volume. So instead, I just had it in my ears and was able to do it that way too. So it's pretty cool. Like when all of like the witches talk and stuff like that, it's like these weird whispers in my ears, and like, oh, it's kind of creepy. But yeah, no. So that was good. So I am organized. I still have like a whole row of cards that I brought in from some of Graham's stuff that I need to go through and actually put in penny sleeves. But then the next step will be to finally build some Stellar Crown decks because I haven't updated any of my decks from Shroud of Fable to Stellar Crown too. So yeah, so I know it was a ton of poke. And still, I don't think I'll be playing in events any this week either. We have our annual college buddy trip this year. So usually once a year, me and like 8 of our buddies from college, we get together. We go either to the mountains in like Asheville, or this year we're going to the beach. So we were going to do that for the weekend. So I'm missing out
Oh,
on a
fun.
cup in town, but I would much rather do that than go play a cup this weekend too, because it's good to see some friends who we really sometimes only get to see each other once a year at this point too. So it's always fun,
True.
even though
Yeah.
we live in the same state, but we're just busy, kind of all spread out and things like that. So but yeah, that's me, man. I talked a lot there. Aaron, how was your week? I know you had some fun family things that you got to do. I know you talked a little bit about going pumpkin patch hunting, things like that. But yeah, how was your week, man?
Yeah, I'll start towards the beginning of the week. And as we kind of get into like just our thoughts and Stellar Crown, and kind of have dwindled it, down to the main decks. I still think it's like 75% I'll play Reggie Drago, um, just because it's probably my only major besides
Yeah,
some cups and challenges here that I'll actually get to play with it, because obviously we're expecting baby number two sometimes close to Christmas. And I fully expect it to be rotated by the time Milwaukee comes, if I get to go in early May. So I've just been kind of experimenting with the A specs. I know Prime Catcher. Everyone's like probably listening to this or watching it, and thank you for the watchers on YouTube. But call me an idiot. Like, why would you ever not play anything other than the Prime Catcher? But Max Belt has felt really really good. I know Raging Bolt has not had the day two conversion, uh, but it's still just a very very tough matchup for especially if you only get one Reggie Drago and you can't disrupt their hand and then somehow hit
yeah,
a couple energy switch and a vessel and stuff. So I've been just trying to kind of experiment with that, just because one of my favorite things in the heavy like V meta is the choice belt and doing 230 with rolling iron, and just it's such a good number to hit. And so 250 has felt really good with that, or Dragapults, because they both hit 200 damage. Just being able to kind of move the damage around a little bit more. So I've been experimenting with that, and two switch, but it's really hard because you kind of have to stuff an Arvin in there, because what I've experimented with is like you
yeah,
just you're not finding the belt when you really do need it. When
right,
you do need it and you find it off of something, without playing an Arvin in the deck. So
yeah,
it just is one of those. I'm sure every experimenter with decks. As you know, I think our communities, they love to experiment with things. So, and that's what I love about our our community that we have here at the PCS. But it's one of those where it's just, man, if I could have 61 cards, it feels so much better, because it's like, what do you cut? Because right now it feels like you kind of have to play two stadiums right now, with Jamming Tower and League Headquarters are kind of the two that I've really settled on and felt really good about.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I did sign up. I was relieved. Ian Robb did put out a Stellar Crown, like Reggie Drago, not really a masterclass, just kind of like what has changed. And it was 90 minutes, and for $30, I was like, that's exactly what I need. I already know the matchups. I've played it since it was not very good at all to now when it's a relevant meta relevant deck. And so I'm excited to listen in on that and see what he has to say, and get to play. So Tuesday night, the Discord was popping. I think we got up to like 8 people in there, and a couple matches were going. Just some people chatting, hanging out, talking Louisville, and that is I DM Drew afterwards. I was like, that reminds me of like the good old days when we, not that we're not in the good old days, but like when it was really popping in the PCS before, we had people in there just constantly chatting, playing games, asking things, and just getting to know the people that we have in the Discord. So that was really fun, and I took that, went home or went to sleep very happy on Tuesday, and then Friday night I played our league challenge match, and then we had another 6 to 7, 8 people kind of coming in and out. Some people playing in the Tournament of Doom, like yourself. Carlos was playing in that. He got to 2-0, 3. He had a bad, just a couple kind of bad beats, and then the fourth round, I think he was playing through, and then that's when I kind of went to bed and stuff like that. But he, we talked and stuff like that, and Carlos was hanging out with us, Oscar was hanging out with us as well too, talking through things. So I did get a win on Friday night with Golden Go. That's kind of one of the decks that like I've never played and just experimented, and I don't know if it's like because I never played it on live, like if I'm just, it's given me really good, it's giving me really good starting hands. It's just giving me really good things. So it's like, is this because I've never played it that it's just giving me good hands? So it's trying to persuade my mind of what to play, and I just I don't foresee myself playing at Louisville, but it's been really, really fun.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, Saturday we went to a pumpkin patch. Our son has been asking to go to one since like the end of May. That's awesome. And so we had told him to wait. We did get kind of a heat wave on Saturday. We got up to 88, I think. And so we were there for just over 2 hours, but we were all, sunburnt and quite warm. So I think we all took a nap when we got back Saturday afternoon. And then I'd stayed up, Friday, just, playing the match and then hanging out, chatting in the Discord. And then Saturday night, Iowa had their big rivalry game versus Minnesota. We won that, bringing Floyd of Rosedale, which is like, to me, is the best college football trophy. It's a 98-pound bronze pig, just huge. And especially considering the circumstances last year where we got ripped off by a fair catch, it felt good to really kind of pound them in the second half. So that was fun. And then this morning, I have to give a shout out. So one of my close friends, I've mentioned, I think a couple times on the pods, but I have a very, very close friend for over 20 years now in the Netherlands, and he has a 6-year-old son. And we got on, and I had him download Discord. It's like, just put it on your laptop. You can, show the play mat, because he has the Battle Academy. And I got to play against Oscar Sintra. So I want to give him a shout out. Netherlands has a lot of top players, considering the size of the country. So look out for an up-and-comer here, in a few years by the name of Oscar. So I was excited to do that and catch up, just because we are close friends. So yeah, it's been a fun week.
That's awesome.
As I kind of joked with Carlos, Louisville is three weeks away, and it feels 3 weeks too quick coming up. So I do realize I need to just get as many reps in as possible these next few weeks. But it was a good week, and today we got into like the good, like early fall, like 66 was the high today. And had the windows open, and I love the early part of fall, man. It is so beautiful, colors changing, and then it's like light sweatshirt and shorts or sweatpants or jeans weather, and that's what I love the most, just because it's so beautiful out. And we only get it for like a certain amount of time before it gets a little too cold, but it is
Yep.
my favorite part of living
Yeah.
in Iowa,
Meanwhile,
is the fall. So
Meanwhile, I'm sitting outside planting or repotting the plants today in like 88-degree weather, sweating my butt off, and I was like,
we
"Oh,
that's
this is the worst." Like, I
what
took
we had yesterday.
I took
It
three
was wild.
showers today because I took my morning shower, I took the shower after potting some plants, and then took an evening shower after grilling out and playing with the kids outside too. So,
Yeah,
three
yeah.
showers, three showers. It's September, it's fall. It should that's yeah. I was mad.
Yeah, that's where I've lived in Iowa. We do have rough rough winters, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
man, the fall is just it's so beautiful. It's my
That's
favorite time
awesome.
of the year. But
Cool.
speaking of which, it's been about just over a week since Stellar Crown has been active
Yeah.
in the online scene. So, Michael, I believe you've done some good research here, and a lot of credit to a lot of these resources that we have because we didn't conduct this.
Yep.
So, full credit to everyone that we'll showcase here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
I know you kind of talked about the meta's kind of been weird. I kind of would say like there's not really anything meta defining. It feels more like tech inclusions, the A
Hmm.
specs, Terra Crystal and Grand Tree, going through. I joked with you before the pod and I was like, I haven't had someone play Briar against me yet. And
Yeah.
I know that has been talked about, but it just feels like there's not a meta defining deck or something that really shakes up. It just feels like the good decks get a one card tech, depending on what they decide to play. Like Dragapult, I guess, probably the meta where it's been non existent in Shrouded Fable. Obviously, that kind of has gone up a little bit more.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the Tarapkos Noctowl, I don't know how real it is, but Noctowl is a
Oh, no,
problem.
Noctow's
That
very
card
real.
is
Yeah.
yeah, that card is very real, and really annoying because
Imagine
if
if
they
we
have
had
nothing,
Scoop Up. Imagine if we
yeah,
had Scoop Up Net in format with Noctowl
it'd
again.
be
It'd
even
just,
worse. Yeah, it'd be even worse
yeah,
than Shady Dealings
I
because
know,
yeah, it's
dude.
just automatic two trainer cards every single
Yep.
time. So
That's so dumb.
yeah, so I'll let you take it over and I'll jump in where I can.
Yeah, yeah. So again, shout out. I know there's a couple of resources. OmniPoke. We've got Joe. Obviously, he compiles so many good resources. He's using Trainer Hill, things like that too. But just puts it in a really cool visual, which we'll show here in a moment. And then there's a guy that's kind of newer to the Twitter space that I've seen around, Steve Weimer. They ended up taking Joe's work and then kind of dug in a little bit deeper too. So we'll also pull that up because I think it's really interesting. Because I think what we see from Joe's stuff, Charizard being S tier, we might think, oh, Charizard's just that dude. Well, it's not quite that way. It's certainly getting the most play. But backing up a bit before we kind of jump into that, just my thoughts on Stellar Crown as a whole. I don't really know what I expected when we first started seeing Stellar Crown dropping. I was excited, but then I was like, well, the cards are cool. Terra Crystal's cool, which we're seeing play, but really not much has changed since Shrouded Fable, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not the most exciting thing to dive into too. So I think like a lot of the decks that we're seeing do really well online are decks that have been around for a while or decks that did well in Shrouded Fable too. So let me actually go ahead and just pull this up too. So we'll switch over. Let me switch to Joe. This is from Joe. If you're not following Joe, follow Omni Joe on Twitter and then also OmniPoke. I think the reason he's kind of like merged out of there, he's had someone, I forgot who it is, helping him now. But there's another person that will also be posting on the OmniPoke channel on YouTube as well. So, anyways, I digress. This shows a pretty telling picture of obviously they have Charizard listed as an S tier deck. I don't know if I would consider it S tier though. It's certainly S tier in the amount of play that it's getting, but we're seeing a lot of decks win that aren't Charizard as well. Obviously, you see Raging Bolt up there at the top. As you mentioned, Dragapult came back. Obviously, the Terra Crystal really helped that a ton, and I think the build that it's safe to say the best build of Dragapult right now, or at least what we're seeing the most of and what I've appreciated the most is the Dragapult Pidgeot. Nothing else, nothing too crazy. I know Dragapult Charizard's still somewhat of a thing, but I think just the consistency of Dragapult Pidgeot is pretty incredible. Also, obviously, just Dragapult has a pretty broken attack. Surprise, surprise, Guardy is making a comeback. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it's making a comeback. I know there are Guardy stands out there that are super excited for that. I'm not, but it's here and it's real somehow. I think it's partially because we see Drago kind of getting cheated down a little bit more. It's not as played, which is kind of interesting. I think seeing Charizard up there, like I just think good Charizard players know how to navigate that Dragapult matchup or the Drago matchup, and I think also people have kind of learned that Kyurem's not as big as of a threat as we thought it would be. Like an early Kyurem play is not always the most optimal play, and I think you probably could attest to that too as a Drago player. Like
Yeah.
the amount of energy, the amount of resources that you can kind of go through just to pull off that play, and then to watch your opponent get set right back up the next turn, and then be like, oh crap, I don't have any energies on board on any of my Dragos. I'm kind of screwed here. So like, I think people have learned that it's not as scary as it once was thought to be. So, and Charizard's just broken. The fact that it's just so strong and gets stronger as the game progresses too. But yeah, so anyways, I think that's the same reason why we see Guardy doing well again. Drago being down in play gives Guardy the opportunity to go up in play. And I think obviously too, we saw Guardy's not really that afraid of Drago. Henry Chow did work to his Drago opponents in Baltimore too. And that was even without Manaphy, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Yeah.
Which is nuts. Like just I don't know. Yeah, crazy that they went that route. Obviously Snorlax stall is still there. I think even on the late night this past Wednesday, North American late night, or no, excuse me, it was the EU late night. We saw a finals match of Snorlax on Snorlax.
Versus, yeah.
Yep, yeah. Snorlax on Snorlax Violence. I think those lists have changed a little bit more. We're starting to see some more cornerstone in those in Snorlax. Kind of taking what we saw from the cornerstone Noivern lists at Baltimore and kind of saying, all right, cool. Well, Stall's still pretty great. Charizard's pretty good. Stall does really good into Charizard, so naturally just kind of makes sense why it's starting to see more play. See results. Play rate is, if you look at the list if you look at the graph on the right of this, we're only seeing a count of 43 total Snorlaxes from when, this date range was. So like, we're not seeing a ton of Snorlax played when we look at the rest of the meta, but when we do see it played, it's doing pretty dang well. So those are your A tier. Then you've got the fraudulent Terapagos deck. I hate that deck. It's annoying, but not really. I think it actually could be good. There's Evan Campbell. I've played him on tournaments. I think he's actually here in North Carolina too, maybe South Carolina. But in the comments on here, if you can see it, it says, I want to make Terapagos tier 1 by the end of next week. And maybe so. I think their list is doing pretty well on some online events and things like that too. I don't know. The fact that it literally could the whole deck can crumble to an Enhanced Hammer or a Temple of Sinnoh, because like you're literally just playing DTE to power this thing up. Like,
yeah, yep.
That to me, I don't know. That's just a pretty glaring weakness. Like the moment people start taking that back in, not for Lugia, but for Terapagos, that deck's just kind of cooked, if you ask me. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to continue to blow up. I mean, I got blew up by one on the Tournament of Doom who literally just hit it all on turn 2. But again, like I said, Temple, Enhanced Hammer, that deck just crumbles, and it's already kind of hard. Like again, they play to a small hand and they kind of don't have a ton right away. Obviously, you have the Noctowl if you can evolve to it, things like that. But I don't know, TBD there. And then the rest, surprisingly, Drago's kind of seen some decrease. Ancient Box, we expected that to happen. My guy, Lugia, most underrated deck in format yet again. People aren't playing it as much. I played it on Friday night. It felt great. I think it's still seeing some really solid finishes too. You're like, if you go through the online meta and you look at some of these events, like you'll see the same group of us still playing Lugia because we believe in it being really strong. And so I think it'll continue to do well. It's never going to be the most played deck at this point. Palkia, fake deck, Chien-Pao, rest in peace, and then the H/Slash deck too, getting some love there too.
Yeah, if you bring up the conversion with like the Steve Wimmer, which
I'm gonna pull this one up here.
Followed as soon as he posted this.
Yep,
it is pretty cool. As you mentioned, like Snorlax, the kind of like the conversion rate of like really scoring the points is like earth shattering, and someone for Regidrago, like even before lists were really refined, I was even playing 2-switch and a prime catcher just because. Yeah. I'm always deathly afraid of a bad basic, which TCG Live has
Yeah.
continued to just feed me Kyurem, and that's it. Turn one.
Yep.
So like I said, that's where like when I play Golden Gold, it's like, oh sweet, two Buddy Putty Puffin and an Ear to the start. Cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get fully set up, but it is cool. And then yeah, Gardevoir. And some of these results, it was probably before like Henry Chow's list like was really out there.
No, I think no. This is
Oh, this was the 16th through the
this
19th.
is
Yeah,
post
yeah,
Baltimore. I think a lot of these
yeah.
lists. Let me pop into one really quick. Let me see if I can find
Yeah,
one where they
just
were.
double check if they've gone back to the double monkey and too dark. I would assume,
Let's
but
actually
like,
just do this. We'll find it this way. I'm pretty sure it's the Henry Chow list. Let's do the dates. 3rd of
let's look at
139/11. Let's find one that's like a higher. I mean, some of these. Yeah, here we go. Here's a late night. This one looks good. Late night. They finished 4th out of 221, so that's a pretty good one. So yeah, the double monkey.
double
Yep,
dark.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
so kind of went back to two bravery charms. So kind of, to me, this
Yeah.
literally is like an NAIC build because they even have the enhanced hammer. They
Uh-huh.
literally added a night stretcher
Yep.
and only one super rod instead of two.
Yeah.
Literally looks like the NAIC build because they're playing the unfair stamp as well too. So
Yeah.
yeah, Gardevoir.
On this one is this.
It's one of those that probably might not be most like heavily played
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. See, this one is the.
in Louisville, but like I just feel like I'm gonna hit like three Guardies, like I did at
Yeah.
NIC where I hit a whole bunch of Lugias with Dialga, but
Yeah.
went okay into Lugias actually fared really well there, but it if we bring back up Steve's
Yep.
chem conversion, so like right now just what's winning the best is Snorlax, and then Gardevoir, and then Terapagos is doing well, and then like the things that actually haven't been, and again, it's online meta, it's different, right? Because you have different things, so you always kind of, as Dre kind of told us, like you kind of take just a little bit of the results into here. You don't say this is the gospel, but
Right.
Dragapult, Lugia, and Palkia have all really been struggling in terms of actually points per play is kind of how they qualified it up, but I'll have you kind of carry on.
Yeah, no, I think this is just pretty telling, right? And I think we do have to understand, like, we haven't had a major event yet in Stellar Grounds, so like the results certainly take with a grain of salt, but I think it does help dictate what the next major event will look like. So I think it's important in that sense too. Like you have people testing and learning. Like my Lugia list, for example, that I ran on the Tournament of Doom. I don't even know if I could. Let me see if I can find it really quick too. Like I think a lot of people were testing things right now. So I think we're still. It's funny. I still was the number 3rd Lugia deck, and I dropped it 3-2. But like I added in a Wellspring, which I never play Wellspring in the list too. Still was testing the Carmine, things like that. So like, trying to like figure out a way to interact with the Guardian matchup and things like that too. So, I don't know. I certainly take these results with a grain of salt, but I think use the resources that we have. I think that, the moral of the story, this data isn't bad data, but it's not like, like it's not the data that's going to dictate what Louisville looks like, or even then Dortmund, which I think is before Louisville, if I remember correctly. That's like in a week or two, right?
Yeah, Dortmund's this upcoming weekend.
That's right. Yeah. Do we know? Are they streaming that?
Yes.
Good. Sweet. I get to watch Pokemon this weekend.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah. And then they have the Brazil special event as well.
That's right.
Too,
cool.
The same weekend. Yeah. So it'll be a lot of Pokemon next the weekend of the 28th.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so again, online meta, it's interesting. I think we're in a good spot to keep moving forward. But yeah, Stellar Crown's cool. I think I'm excited mostly for Surging Sparks too, so that kind of transitions well into the next thing. I think Aaron, you can chat a little bit more in just a minute about the Champions League that's going on right now. But I did want to, before we jump into that, kind of take like a quick dive into where the City League meta looks like, and really just pointing out the fact that it doesn't look much different than where we're at right now too. So if you're watching this and you're on YouTube, which again, shout out to all our YouTube subscribers, we're continuing to grow there. We're continuing to see a lot of success there. And if you're watching this on Spotify too, you can see this. But if you're still one of the audio listener faithfuls, there's a website. I think sometimes I call it Pokeka Book. Sometimes I call it Poke Book, but it's POKECABOOK. It'll be linked in the description and the show notes. But this is a really great way to kind of keep a pulse about where the meta is looking. So I have an infographic pulled up here. Right now we're seeing Charizard still at S tier, but surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, given that it's Japan and it's best of one, Raging Bolt is at a whopping 20% of the meta share at the S tier level. And then you've got, 6, 7 decks in A tier and then a couple in B tier. One thing to keep in mind when you start to look at Japan City League results in the meta for Surging Sparks, this is just half of their meta too. So like, some of the stuff that Aaron is going to be mentioning just a little bit about some of the card reveals we had today, that's not even there yet. So take these with a grain of salt, but it is, I don't know, maybe, I don't know where I stand with this, knowing that this will be our meta for roughly 6 months. Obviously, we're going to have a couple of smaller sets here and there. I haven't decided how I feel about it yet. I'm not like super stoked about it. But I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun to kind of refine even more. I've already kind of come to the conclusion that I'm probably going to be running a lot of Lugia and a lot of Charizard pretty much for now until EUIC time, or after that, I guess. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll play around with some things. But yeah, take a look at this. It's interesting. Again, the website to use if you're not familiar with it is pokabook.com or Pokekabook, POKECABOOK.com. And then simply all you want to do if you don't know Japanese, there's a really handy thing on most websites or browsers where you can translate it to English. So translate it to English and dig into the data as much as your heart desires. That's all I want to say about the City League results too. So meta's not looking that drastically different moving forward, but there are still some exciting events too. So Aaron, you want to talk a little bit about the Champions League? I think you said you were even watching some of it today, right?
Correct. Yes. I was having a heck of a time trying to watch it, and then I realized finally when I found like the official website, and then it announced like it's playing on Sunday, Monday, because obviously they're very far in advance in from where we are,
The
and
future.
so yeah, they are very much in the future, and always too because they always get the cards and they're legal right away, whereas we have to wait 2 weeks. So right now they kind of are in the Stellar Crown format, but they have the two like starter decks with Sylveon EX and Cerulege EX, which Cerulege is actually getting played and seeing some decent results. It has a very very efficient attack on it's basic to basically based off energy in the discard pile for only one attachment. Thank you for pulling that up.
Yep. Here we go.
There's 20 more damage for each energy card in the discard pile. So I'll talk on that a little bit as well too. But was able to catch up with day one as I was making notes and just watching it because for whatever reason like Azul I know recasted it, but like it wasn't on his YouTube live, which normally it is. So I don't know if something happened there, or maybe he's editing a little bit to cut off some of the stuff and like have it separate. Because I know he was streaming like just playing decks before, but
Yeah.
Japan is always a best of one. Just remind everyone again. So when you're looking at the deck list and the data, it is very good to see kind of what is going on. But I've always, from just better players than me, when I've ever asked them about it, they just said, remember, it is a best of one meta. So like they're really teching hard because it's a best of one. So you could see some crazy techs, but yeah, I enjoyed catching up, and they're actively playing right now. And day two, the first matchup was a 7-0 Cerulege versus a 7-0 Raging Bolt, and the Raging Bolt won. One of the cooler decks that I saw in day one was a Regidrago without Ogerpon. It was Regidrago with a Dusknoir build and a Crispin, and that was kind of cool. In a best of one, I would kind of scratch my head at how consistently they're pulling this up because I believe it was another heavy research. And I wasn't paying super close attention because I was also kind of prepping, making notes as well too, and without Azul like commentating, right? I don't know Japanese. I'd love to learn it, but I'm just kind of watching casually to go through. So it still looks going through. They're actively playing right now, so like I kind of joke that I'll still watch it. But I was seeing quite a bit of Regidrago on the stream. I did see one of the cool matchups was an Entei Teal Mask Ogerpon with Energy Switch.
Entei V.
Yeah, Entei V. It was and without Magna Basin too.
Interesting.
Just a lot of earthen vessels, a lot of energy switches, kind of like a
Yeah.
Regidrago.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Hmm.
As well too, just watching that because they're playing the Area Zero underdefs, for the stadium, obviously because they're
Yeah.
playing the Teal Mask.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Hmm.
I thought he was. I mean, it looks like he was one turn away from wiping the floor off Dragapult was the matchup, and then Dragapult was able to hit Rare Candy Pidgeot and then go get the Grand Tree and then evolve into Dragapult and you know hitting 200 and then spreading damage counters on 230. He was able to counter catcher and go through. But it was pretty cool. I think that the NTV ended up winning in the end, but Dragapult I thought was going to get wiped, and then they ended up coming back. And then I'm trying to remember. I think I saw Lugia, and it's always hard because in day one they have like the celebrity guest player,
Yeah.
streamer, content creator, uh, and so they get featured a lot heavily in the early part instead of like seeing maybe
Yeah.
the best players. I know one player that I saw has been on Daichi Shiimade's YouTube, like practicing against them. So like that person I recognize, but I haven't seen any other big names. Well, we'll see here as T2 goes through. So yeah, it looks still a crown. My takeaway is just kind of the good decks. Just get a few more additional cards. I don't think anything changes drastically besides the ace specs. The Terra Crystal and the Grand Tree is kind of interesting, but even the Zards that we've seen with the online results, like seems like they're still really intermittent between Unfair Stamp, Grand Tree, and Prime Catcher.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
as much Hero's Cape lately, and that felt like more of a Shrouded Fable tech, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like with these sets, it'd be fun to kind of get something. I guess we get the Terrapagos and Noctowl, but it's been pretty, kind of the same old as probably as you alluded to. It just kind of feels like it's a little bit meh, but it's one of those where it's funny because in Shroud of Fable, like I was really really low, and you were kind of coming up. Worlds kind of resparked my interest
Yeah.
just because NIC to Worlds without any sort of major in Japan or anywhere
That's
in the
tough.
world,
Yeah.
just it is funny of just even watching it, maybe not even get to play in it obviously, but just watching it kind of live action obviously instead of subjecting ourselves to TCG live randomization, which I don't think exists, but seeing something just kind of sparks. So like now, and it's probably right, I'm going to Louisville, you're just coming off of Baltimore, so then like you kind of hit that dip, and then now I'm kind of hitting the up because it's like, oh, I got something to go play for. And yeah, I really just think it's kind of the same old. I know in the Discord we've had a lot of people playing in cups. Shout out Jose, he won a back-to-back. He played control again as well too, so I want to give him a shout out because he played. Now Colors went 3-1 on one of his because I think he played in a cup, I think 2 cups this week as well too. But yeah, it feels like people are getting out there and playing and just kind of experimenting. But I think Japan, the best thing to probably come out, we'll see what wins. Maybe there will be a really cool deck that does win. But we had some pretty cool reveals, Michael.
I'd say so.
Yeah, pretty wild going through. And so all of these, special shout out to Tuan Mai. I know we've mentioned him in all of our reveals before, but I want to mention him again. If you're not following him, please follow him. He does great work in terms of getting these out and translated quickly for us. And the first one, if you want to,
yep, let me get that.
Oh yeah,
real quick.
Yeah, if we want to bring up their Twitter, and if you want to bring up Pikachu EX.
Yep, we are good. We're there.
Thank you. So this is pretty much an insane card right now. So looks like my first takeaway, right? Because this is going to be part of our Surging Sparks. This is the cool thing. I was thinking, we were talking before that these are going to be part of the special set, but then I just went to Justin Basil, which again, make sure you follow, go to his website and support him. But they have revealed that these are actually going to be a part of the Surging Sparks. So it feels like the Surging Sparks will actually be the meta shaker, and then we'll unfortunately probably have it for quite a few months. Yeah, because we'll see with the special set if we get anything really earth shattering. But if it's anything like the past few special sets in December, January, probably not. So Pikachu EX, basic EX Pokemon, right? Two prizer, 200 HP, and my note was this is the first like competitive Pikachu that we probably are going to see since Flying Pikachu VMAX, which
Yeah.
obviously won NAIC and a regional and Worlds, right?
Yep.
So kind of funny. That's the Celebrations VMAX, Flying Pikachu VMAX,
Yeah.
obviously got played, but it looks like this could be pretty cool. So it's got a really cool ability called Tenacious Heart. If this Pokemon has full HP and be KO'd by an attack, it isn't KO'd, and its remaining HP becomes 10 HP instead. So pretty cool because normally Pikachu is only around like that 200, 190, 210 maybe tops of the HP. So they're the Pikachu, big Pikachu is actually making a good Pikachu card again to be
Yeah.
relevant, and then has a really cool attack for a grass, a lightning, and a metal. If that sounds familiar, yes, that is Amazing Raiku's same energy cost. Topaz Bolt for 300 damage, and you have to
Crazy.
discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. It doesn't say all energy; it just says 3 specifically. But as I kind of noted, I'm not really sure the aspect right to go through. We'll kind of see, but I was like, well, Terra
Probably,
Crystal.
yeah, the Terra Crystal, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and you have the Joltik too. Like, but with this with Miraidon, I guess I'm not sure if Miraidon exactly feels the right place for this,
I
because you
think it
do
could.
have
I think it could be a better.
generators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it could be a better Mewtwo, though. I think a lot of them are slotted in that Mewtwo. I think this probably
Oh,
feels better than that, especially
yeah,
because
yeah,
this
because the
replaces
1 week
that.
pre-cuffs. Yeah,
Yeah, and it replaces a Terra as well too, so it kind of like slots in for that. So I think it could. I think the lightning parity with the rest of the deck. I think it'll go in there well. Obviously, you have to figure out the energy cost, but yeah, and
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
yeah. So pretty cool. I don't know if you had any initial thoughts
Yeah,
on it, but
I I think a
pretty cool
couple
of
of
a reveal.
things. One thing to point out, Tuan did put this. They mentioned, and I think they do this because obviously, if you edit things on Twitter, they don't love. The algorithm doesn't like that. So Tuan did make a note that in the ability, it's originally they said if this Pokemon has full HP, it would be KO'd by an attack. They did correct it and say KO'd by damage from an attack. So that does change things up just a bit.
Oh, okay.
So KO'd by damage, not by just an attack. So that'll be something to be keeping an eye out when the official translations come out. But I suspect that it is like Tuan's pretty spot on with their translations too. So just to call that out, they did post that in the comments below. If you don't like to read comments, sometimes you probably should because they're really good.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too to note, someone had put this in. This was my original thought when I read the card before I read the comments. If you do attach the Terra Crystal or the Sparking Crystal, it puts you to an energy cost of 3, but then the attack says discard 3 energies from this, or excuse me, puts you to an energy cost of 2. But then the attack technically still reads discard 3 energy from this Pokemon too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that interaction works too.
Right.
There is a thread there. I'm not going to click into it because I don't want to lose the picture here. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to read through that. I haven't read that just yet. But yeah, other than that, like this card to be able to swing for 300, I'm still up in the air. Like, are any of these Terra or Stellar Terra Pokemon actually attackers? Like, are we at a spot yet in the meta where we can maybe this actually works really well in like a Lost Zone deck, and we can Mirage Gate to it more? Like maybe that
There you
actually
go.
is where this kind of sees a home. But I think it's pretty crazy that a basic Pokemon can hit for 300 HP and as early as turn 2 potentially, if Lost Zone's even a thing, obviously. Maybe go Mega Turbo and just swing big. I do think it got a little nerfed by the HP, but also not surprising considering we've seen basic EX Pokemon with 160 HP like Swakabilly too. So they did at
Yeah.
least give it something. 200 feels kind of bad though. Like if I'm a Lugia player and I see 200, I'm like, all right, this feels cool. I'm knocking that thing out. 210 would have been a little bit better maybe, but obviously there's a reason for that. But no, still a cool card. I'm excited for it. And also, I think this card's going to have some baller SIR to it as well. Like if they don't
Oh
print
yeah.
this and like make their full art and the SIR for this card just insanely like they're they're missing out on some money too, right? Like the collectors are gonna go nuts over this thing.
Yeah,
If
I'm sure there'll be the gold, there'll be the
Yeah, it's there. It's gonna be all over the
special
place.
illustration, as you mentioned, the full
Yeah,
art will probably be sick as well too.
yeah.
I hope the full arts for the Terra stuff have always kind of been like white. So
Hmm.
we'll see if they break the trend with that. I guess who knows, but I
Yeah,
doubt it. I guess just because we have the volume showing through. But
yeah.
another one they've revealed another A spec as well too that I think should round out the Surging Sparks A spec list. It is called Miraculous Communications, I believe, is what Tuan translated it to be.
Miraculous intercom.
Intercom, thank
Yep.
you. Yeah, yeah, because it looks like our
Hmm.
headsets that
Hmm.
we're actually wearing. Pretty cool. A spec. As I kind of put in, I was like, oh, this is VS Seeker on steroids because it says choose up to 2 supporter cards from your discard pile, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Now I know in terms of A spec tiers, this would probably not the lowest, but probably middle low. But in terms of something that when you need the supporter
Right.
specifically that you need it for, it is good because right now the only interaction that we really have is like an attack to put something back into your hand, or obviously Palpad to put it into the deck, and then you have to try to find it anyway. But this feels kind of cool.
Yeah.
I always like I said, they're just doing a really good job with the different type of A specs that they're printing, giving us different variations. It's just there's just always some clear winners of A specs as well too. I think as you kind of noted with Pikachu EX as well too, I really think if we can get this V Star, which we're both subjected to playing with Lugia and Regidrago being our kind of pet decks,
Yeah.
is like once we get those guys out of there, once we get the V Stars rotated, I am really interested to see just what the landscape of it is, right? Because
Yeah,
we
for
do have the
sure.
big basics EX as well too, but then it's just like straight up evolving
Yeah.
as we've seen. I don't think we're due because normally worlds they would introduce like they did 2 worlds ago where they said A specs are coming back. We didn't see anything of that nature, so I think we're not going to get a new mechanic, if you will. I think we're going to be in the evolving EX, which is good because I think that was a
Yeah.
healthy time in the past as history has taught us. But yeah, Miraculous Intercom, I'll bring it back. 2 supporters from the discard pile back in your hand, and then obviously you can play one of them obviously for your turn. What are your initial thoughts? Obviously, this doesn't get to be played in GLC, unfortunately, because that would feel really cool.
Yeah.
Because there is whenever I play a VS Seeker early, I always be like, oh, I really don't want to use
I
you right
know.
now. I really want to save you till the end of the game. But what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
Miraculous
that's why
Intercom?
that's why I just gotta play retro where you can have 4 of them in your deck at any given
There we
time.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a cool card. May this is how I feel about every single A spec when they first reveal them. Is like I don't really see how it's gonna fit in yet. Like it's one of those like it has to just people just have to kind of mull over it and think about where it fits in. Yes, it's insanely broken that you can get those cards back, and like I can just imagine like the kind of sidling loops you could have with
Oh,
this kind of
jeez.
thing, right? So like
I didn't even think about
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it'd be kind of silly. So I don't know. I think it's going to work in certain decks. I don't think it's going to be in every deck, right? Like there are so many decks out there that just once they're set up, they just function. And you don't really need to put stuff back into your hand too. So like
Yeah.
this again, I think just perhaps gives control a little bit more to the arsenal as well, right? Like again, the sidling loop with this to make it pretty broken, but I don't know. I love VS Seeker. I wish that we would get a VS Seeker reprint. I think someone in the comment right period down there. I said we will never get a VS Seeker anymore. This is beyond peak evidence of why 2 VS Seeker on a one of a spec. So like maybe I don't know. I don't want to believe that to be true, but it does feel like this is kind of like the nail in the coffin for the return of VS Seeker for a little while at
Yeah.
least while a specs are a thing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Cool card.
I think the boss's orders or Professor Research are officially not printed with every rotation.
Yeah.
I don't foresee the secret coming back,
Yeah.
unfortunately. In
VS
my
Seeker
humble
boss.
opinion,
VS
just
Seeker
yeah,
boss. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Is in my humble opinion, I don't think till those cards actually rotate that it would
Yeah.
ever come back.
Yep. Yeah, that's it for me on this card.
All right, and then we have one other note really that now I'm not going to show all of them because I think Resurging Sparks, we can kind of have a as it gets closer in November, we can kind of have a little bit of a set review. I should say a light set review because we did it obviously when a lot of the things were announced. We obviously covered quite a few of those as well too, but we'll talk about it in the future. But we have one more supporter here before I get to two kind of interesting stadiums that were revealed. It's called Serrano. So this person was part of the second DLC. When you go to Blueberry Academy, he's kind of like your introduction, and he kind of gives you an overview
Yeah.
of what the Blueberry Academy is about. So this is a supporter and put in my notes is like this is Lance, but 100% more universal. And it says search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon EX, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Pretty cool, because it is a Pokemon search on a trainer where it's not on the item cards. So that to me kind of feels good. If they didn't print the Terra Crystal or Terra Orb, excuse me,
Yeah.
search card, I was pretty bummed as we when we revealed that. I was kind of bummed about that because I was hoping for just better Pokemon search or more fair Pokemon search is probably the right word. And then we got Dusk Ball, which is one of my favorite, like just Pokeballs in terms of what it looks like. But then let's just look at the bottom 7 of yours and reveal Pokemon, put you in. But anyway, Serrano, search your deck for 3 Pokemon EX, reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. This feels pretty cool if you got some rare candies already in your hand.
Yep.
You don't have to pay a cost of an Ultra Ball to go get something. So I just kind of noted with particularly either a big basic, deck, or to me this feels really good in like an evolving that maybe is playing a few of them. Like Charizard, Pidgeot obviously comes to mind, or even like Dragapult, right?
Right.
Stuff that's going through. Gardevoir, no, this would never go through. You have so much natural draw till Curly rotates, and then after, I mean, rest in peace, Gardevoir. After Curly rotates is all I'll say, but uh, pretty cool. I always kind of like supporters that like the Lance and stuff like that. Perrin was awful because Pokemon Communications was one of my like favorite early cards when I first started to get into
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
because I just played the theme decks as I've talked about because I didn't have enough like didn't know how to buy code cards or anything like that, so I just played the theme deck for like months on end. And Pokemon Communications and the theme decks was like a broken card because you had just so kind of the 2020 split almost. But
Hmm.
what do you think of Serrano? Do we see it played more than Lance was talked about initially when Dragapult was revealed? Like, oh, Lance stonks, kind of went up. We saw the floor get up to like 30 some bucks for whatever silly reason.
I know. Yeah.
But with this, it's more universal. It's any Pokemon EX,
Yeah.
not basic or anything. Just think it might sneak into a few decks, maybe as just a one of is my
Yeah,
thought
yeah. I was gonna
process.
say I think it's definitely another one of card, which is interesting. Like a lot of these supporters we've seen printed a lot lately. Your
Yeah,
Briar, your Crispin, this like we're getting a lot of one of supporters lately, which isn't the worst thing. I mean, I could definitely see this played in a deck that plays Lumineon. You fish for Serrano, go and grab your Pokemon, do your thing, turn one, going second. Like, I don't know, or going second turn. Like, it feels really good. Anytime you can draw or go and search for Pokemon without having an Ultra Ball, without having to naturally draw into them, things like that. Like, it just feels pretty good, right? Jock, go and grab Evolution Pokemon. Professor Burnett, go and grab what you want to grab and discard. Like, anytime you see these, and then I was thinking of, I can't remember the name of the card too, but some lot era, like there are other cards that we've seen in the past in Pokemon that do similar things and are just broken because anytime you can find the Pokemon is called Pokemon. You need
yeah,
Pokemon
yeah,
to play the game, and a card
correct.
that's getting you those Pokemon, like, oh, it's gonna be great. So I think like in your notes you even put Charizard Pidgeot. I think that's a
Hmm.
prime example for this. Like the reason why Charizard is so good already is because it's pretty consistent and can get set up. You put a card in there like this as a one of, you get your Charizard, you get your Pidgeot, you get whatever else you want that's an EX. Like you're cooking, right? Like
Yeah,
you could
for sure.
easily, you got a couple rare candies in your hand. Cool. Turn two, I'm busting out double Charizard. I got my Pidgeot. Like I'm cooked. Like I'm cooking and you're cooked kind of situation too. No, I think it'll see some play. Uh, I think it's going to be a cool card. I love full art trainers. I can see this homie right here looking pretty dapper with a full art
Oh yeah,
trainer too.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
For those that haven't played the video game and are listening, if you either look up Cyrano, Cyran as in November and then O as an Oscar. If you look it up, like he's dapped out. Like he
yeah.
looks pretty.
Got the
I like him.
fedora,
Yeah,
the
I
bow
liked him in the
tie.
video game. Like he kind of
Yeah.
gives you the that's the first part you meet when you first land there. So,
Someone in
and
the
then we
comment
had
someone in the comments
oh,
said Raging Bolt found alive and well in Miami. Definitely looks like someone who would live in Miami.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that obviously would go through because obviously
Uh-huh.
that they're gonna lose nothing to rotation. And that deck besides Radiant Greninja really is the only thing. So
Yeah.
that's even kind of a one of as well too.
Yep.
Particularly early if you hit that.
Yep.
Um,
Go and grab
yeah,
all
kind of
your
go through and
homies.
just set up, and maybe the Bravery Charm kind of build kind of comes back. It's like, all right, I'm 290. What are you gonna really do
Yep. Come at me.
against me? So,
Yeah.
and then there's a few others Tuan revealed, and I appreciate them for just showcasing everything. So the last ones I had to, I didn't link that through. There's just two stadiums. So basically they're polar opposites. There's Exciting Stadium that reads all basic Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, get plus 30 HP. And then the other is Gravity Stadium, which says all stage 2 Pokemon EX get minus 30 HP. Um, and so, yeah, I think you just pulled up the Gravity Stadium, and then we'll as well too. So that one is all both yours and your opponents. Stage 2 get minus 30. So your Charizard now is 300. Your Gardevoir EX, if you will, is now 280, which is a very, very good number to be at for in terms of decks like that can reach that number pretty easily. One of these I kind of liked with the gravity. One of these I didn't like was the Exciting Stadium of basics just getting more HP. Particularly because Bravey Charm was a part of the SV1 set. So we're looking at some really big things. So your Tropicos that you kind of get annoyed with, Bouffalant, Exciting Stadium. I suppose you're not going to play that because you have to play
You gotta play Area Zero.
Area Zero, yeah,
Yeah.
because you got to fill out your bench. So that never comes into play.
But
But
still, it could
um,
yeah.
but
There
there's some other big basics that could take advantage of this.
right.
I mean, it's always fun. Like stadiums are always such a unique card in the TCGs. What I've always found, like I always appreciate when we have really good stadiums. And right now, uh, particularly with the Area Zero Underdefs coming back, the Stadium War is kind of a little bit more active than it was prior to this time period in the TCG. Obviously, before Path to the Peak, when that was still in play, like Stadium Wars, you're going to be playing two at a minimum, sometimes three, and even four, depending on your tech archetype. But
Sure would
any initial thoughts on these two?
no, I was just gonna make a joke. It sure would be nice if there was a card that had an attack that discarded a stadium after you attacked with it too. But
Yes, yeah, Lugia. Lugia is
yeah,
still pretty real.
hey, even the little Charmander could do it too, though.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the
Yeah.
70 HP. Yep, from
hmm
Obsidian Flames. That's correct.
Yep. Yeah, no, nothing. I don't know. I don't really have too many thoughts on these. The Gravity Mountain one could be kind of cheeky in a Charizard, like especially in the mirror, right? Like if
Yeah.
you can't Oko them right away if they're still on 2 prizes left. So like this could be like one of those little cheeky things where all right, cool. Here, I'm gonna slam down Gravity Mountain, or I'm gonna quick search for Gravity Mountain, slam down Gravity Mountain. You're at 2 prizes. Cool. I knock you out. You're done.
Mhm.
GG's, shake my hand kind of deal. So like, but like, is it worth teching that in? Like Charizard's already tight enough as is in many lists too. So like, is it really worth adding one more stadium in? Probably not, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure it'll be messed around with, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. It's always cool to see the game just getting new cards like this to kind of like pique your interest and to help make you determine like, is this worth it or is it not, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Exciting Stadium, that is annoying. That card's gonna be really annoying to me. Again,
Yeah, I was
imagine
not
I can imagine
excited in that
this.
one.
Yeah, it's almost like TPCI just wants control to keep winning
Yeah.
major, because like imagine this played in Snorlax, right? Your Snorlax gets a charm or a cape or any other boost to it, and then you throw this down on top of it too. Like that's just gonna be really annoying to have to deal with Snorlax, who's 230 plus HP and things like that too. So I could foresee me being really annoyed at this card in the future.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's a couple other reveals, but like I said, we'll talk about the set review. There's a tool and then a baby Terrapagos I was going through, but I didn't think it deserved fully our full attention. But with that, before we kind of allude to the end, as we noted, we have Dortmund and a Brazil special event coming up this upcoming weekend. Any early guesses? And if you want to throw your neck out there or, kind of quote unquote put a wager on anything, where do you feel like things are heading into Dortmund and Brazil? And you can split them up if you kind of feel like Dortmund feels like something like this and Brazil feels something like this.
Well, I'll start with Brazil simply for the fact that Brazil is like the godfather of Charizard. The people down in Brazil are the godfather. So
exactly what I
think oh, you did? I didn't even read that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean I think we could look at what wasn't an SP what it was something last season where top 8 was like 7 Chars, like it was something crazy, like top 8 in Brazil or whatever it was. There was just an unreal amount of Charizards.
That was the birth of Arvin Charizard.
That's Pidgeot. Right. Yeah.
It was Pedro Pertuzzi, William Acevedo, who we saw obviously go on and have a heck of a season, and a few other names that I if they watch or listen, I apologize, but that was like the birth. It was kind of if you ate Palkia V-Star in the Australia one. There was 6 or 7 Charizard EX in the especially in Brazil farms, and that's literally what I put is like Brazil. I'm just gonna say Charizard EX because I know there's some Charizard heads down there that are very, very, very good with Charizard EX, and it feels like something right now, like I said, is like it didn't even come out in Stellar Crown, but something that can utilize Dusclops and Dusknoir just feels like, even though you don't want to take prizes because it interacts with Counter Catcher, Unfair Stump, all that stuff, it's like, well, they can just knock themselves out even if you try to play patient, right, and not take a knockout on anything. It just is a little bit unfortunate. I put down in my notes, Charizard or Regidrake is like in a good spot for that. So I'll let you finish your train of thought on Brazil.
Now I'm reading your note there too. I think we're aligned on this one too. I think in Dortmund we're probably going to see Control do well. I don't know. I could see a Lugia sneaking into a top 8. I think Lugia is positioned pretty well. I would love, as much as I'm already annoyed by the deck, I think it'd be cool to see a Terrapagos up there. I would love to see someone innovate enough to make a deep run with it. But with as competitive as these tournaments are, I don't know. Again, maybe this is me being a hater. I don't see it being consistent enough that long for, to make it there. But we'll see. Control, I think, is gonna have its time. I don't know. And then of course you can't write off Charizard. You can't write off Drago. Bolt is going to be underwhelming. Again, like usual, things like that too. So same story, different format, in my opinion.
I'd be curious if someone can make it there with a Raging Bolt, Noctowl and the
That's true.
Mask as well too.
Yeah.
Like I could see that. At least, like I said, I don't even think it was on stream day 2 at Baltimore. But like I said, I could see maybe something sneaking in there to day 2, but I'm just most excited for the deck builders. Europe have some of the best deck builders out there, and most creative is probably what I'll say as well too. And the fact that I like it selfishly for myself. The only thing that is starting to make me sweat is if Control just wreaks havoc, and maybe it will be lucky if it does so well in Dortmund. The Control players that are thinking about it in the States or coming over to Louisville will be like, well, now it's not a bad because everyone's going to be teching a Turo, a couple extra, an extra switch or anything. But it just has so many tools, like the Gravity Stone, right? Like, can attach that instead of a Bravery Charm. And even if they do play a Canceling Clone, oh, guess what? Now you have an extra retreat cost and whatever, one, like a Teo Mask, right? In Regidrago, just selfishly talking. Like, even if I play that, it's like, oh, now I need 2 to retreat. And then it's basically over at that point. So I am slowly sweating out as much as I can of like, please don't let control just be absolutely broken. Because I could see myself in the matchup roulette just getting farmed by them.
Oh,
As I like to find an interesting way to play interesting decks at the majors that I attend.
well, friend to friend, I know a deck that doesn't do too bad against control. So
Yeah,
I'm just
and
kidding.
that's what I've
That's
been playing a little bit more. It's basically been Regidrago, Golden Go, and Lugia is
yeah,
basically the three that I just kind of keep rotating to try to get a few games in on each day,
yeah,
just to try to get those reps up as well too. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm really excited for this weekend.
yeah.
Obviously, if you're in the Discord, I do a pretty good job of linking, trying to just, hey, here's this stream, here's this stream. No idea on the Brazil special event. I will try to get my ears to the scene, and if I find it, I will post it in our Discord as well too. So, any final thoughts? Just of anything, Surging Sparks, or just kind of Stellar Crown before we kick it over to the PCS updates.
Yeah, no, I think we're all good to start wrapping it up, man.
Nice. All right. I love it. So PCS updates first. We still have 1 second. Let me refresh. I didn't see, but Carlos, I jumped in before while I was, just kind of doing final prep before I came over. He unfortunately had some absolutely dead hands, and Andy was playing the Henry Trout Gardevoir list, so that was a very, very quick sweep. So Carlos is down, but we do still have someone at 4-1. And DK is that person, and he plays Steven. Hopefully tonight. They talked about trying to get to play it. If not, I am going to have to adjust that. So this is a round robin, so I was just joking about, and I'm like, oh boy, I did not foresee a way of, because it was gonna, if there was a tie, I was just gonna say, hey, you guys just play a best 2 out of 3, winner take all.
Yeah,
But I did not foresee if there's a 3-way tie at the top. So we'll see what happens.
yeah.
But we have that, and then I have queued up our season 4 challenge. I will have the registration go live tomorrow
Nice,
as well
nice.
too, and I'll put that in the Discord and link that. Again, our season challenges, because we're all most, if not 95% of the people in the Discord are Pokedads or fathers, is what I'll say, and we do a week to week challenge. So it's just like if you're going to roll up and play in a cup, instead of round after round during one day, we do week by week. And so the season 4 challenge registration is all set up. We'll have 4 Swiss rounds, and then the top 4 will advance to a top cup bracket. And then the winner will get a whole bunch of goodies between, looks like TCG accessories. So I'm glad I have
Nice.
some extra sleeves between katanas, a couple dragon shields I think I still have left, and then I have some dual specs as well too, and then I have a whole bunch of other goodies to include in that. So that will get registration. Won't have a top cut in this. It's just kind of whoever's, because we did a round robin format, and then I'm going to save our special kind of um, interaction with Surging Sparks, just because that meta might drag on a little bit more, and that will be a dynamic. The season 4 will be a very standard. You have a deck list. You and your opponent will submit your deck list to me. If I'm not playing, we'll obviously have a third party, liaison when people play against me, or just say, hey, 7:30, let's just call, just do a video call. Here's my deck list at the same time. So then there's no quick, oh, you played, Golden Go, I'll play NTV type of
Right,
thing,
right.
which would not go very well. So we have that. And then we, in our Patreon members, again, that we are always super appreciative of, we will have our October bi-monthly raffle. So the next one will be in December. And Michael, I know our listeners won't be able to see, but I'll just describe it as a double deck box of all of these starters, including Gen. I'm trying to see if they have Gen 9. Yes, I see Sprigatito.
Nice.
We have a double deck box in, and
Oh
that will,
yeah. Yep.
yeah. And I picked up one for myself because there's just these double deck boxes do really good for the Pokemon Center, is what I'll say. I
Oh
wish
yeah.
their single ones were just like a half inch, a little bit thicker, just in case if you want to put in a couple dividers and a couple extra tech cards to be able to put in like 70 cards. But we have that for the giveaway, and then we have some NAIC stickers. So it looks like there's an Eevee, Pikachu, Gengar, um, a Palmont, and a Char Cadet. So of that, and then I also will have a PCS sticker dice, and then I will throw in some sleeves as well too. So the October bi-monthly winner will do quite well, go through. So appreciate that. It's just a way that we can give back to the community. Yeah, and that's anything else that you had, unless you were able to scrounge up something in Baltimore that you want to include.
I'm sure. Actually, I didn't buy any. The vendors were kind of
Okay.
meh at Baltimore.
Okay,
But I
no,
do
that's
have
okay.
some. I do have some extra stuff if we need to throw in some stuff too.
If we go in there, okay. I'm still good for a few more
Yeah.
bi-monthly ones giveaways, so
Yep.
we'll be good. But with that, I want to thank all of our Patreon members for supporting the show. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining in. I know you're excited to play in the next season challenge, and actually we'll be in Louisville as well too. So I look forward to getting to meet you and everyone else. Thank you for being what you are. It was really fun this week to see 2 different nights, 7 to 8 people in there chatting, and talking poke, which is what this community is all about. So if you want more from me or just the podcast in general, you can find me on X. I still call it Twitter. I probably should update that in our notes, but it's just PCS_pod. Twitch is PCS Podcasts. And then Patreon. If you're looking to join in and actually play in our challenges on a weekly basis, or join obviously in the bi-monthly raffle to get various TCG accessories or cards and sleeves, is patreon.com/PCS podcast. And then YouTube, Michael, I think you had a special shout out to go through, because I think we got a few more
Yeah.
subscribers. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that grow.
Yeah. We're moving right along. I think we're in the 30s now, which is a nice beginning. Yeah. And just appreciate all the support, all
Yeah.
the watches there. So keep liking and subscribing, all the typical YouTube stuff, and then be sure to comment too. Comments help go a long way. So if there's anything you like or want to see done better, that's what the comments can be used for. Don't be mean. If you do decide to post a comment, I will quickly block that comment. Just kidding. But no.
Yeah, constructive criticism
Yeah,
is okay.
absolutely. Yeah, we
we're both adults. We can take
Yeah.
it. We'd rather hear improvements to be made rather
Exactly.
than you guys are doing perfect, because
Yep.
we're obviously still finding our form.
Yep. You can find us there. And then if you want to find me on Twitter, I still call it Twitter as well, and I always will call it Twitter because X is just dumb. You can find me at mHeradia PTCG right there below my picture as well. So you can find me there, yapping away, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think that's it for the week, man. This will come out, and we'll be rocking and rolling into a new week.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, and we'll next week we'll obviously look back on what Dortmund and Brazil had to offer. Hopefully something that will both give us a boost of, man, this looks a lot of fun. Why did we never think of that? And it'll give us a new deck to play for at least a couple weeks. So
that's right.
Again, on behalf of Michael and myself, Aaron, thank you for listening and tuning into the PCS podcast, and we'll catch you all next week.
Peace.